Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the high-rise district of downtown, sunlight danced across the mirror-glassed skyscrapers. Within one of these corporate giants, Winston and Hayes Consulting, a captivating blonde embodied precision and grace amidst the numbers and columns of the accounting department. This blonde was like a ray of sunshine amidst the dull interiors, exuding beauty in every gesture. From his third-floor office, Jerry Mitchell, shrouded in the shadows of his cubicle, found his gaze drawn irresistibly to her. His eyes traced the soft curves of her body and the gentle sway of her chestnut hair, illuminated by the sun's rays. Jerry's heart, captive to her allure, performed its familiar rhythm every time she came into view. She wore an orange sweater with a cartoonish ghost pinned to it, the first harbinger of Halloween season at Winston and Hayes. Attention, everyone! I have an exciting announcement about this year's Halloween celebration! The usual mix of groans and curious murmurs rippled through the office. This year, Deborah continued, undaunted by the lukewarm response, we're having a gender swap-themed costume party. Jerry's stomach dropped. Office parties already ranked low on his list of comfortable social situations. Adding costume requirements only made things worse. Everyone will come dressed as the opposite gender, Deborah explained with enthusiasm that suggested she'd been planning this for months. We'll have prizes for most convincing, most creative, and most humorous interpretations. As the announcement concluded and people returned to work, Brian nudged Jerry's shoulder. Perfect opportunity, man. Halloween parties loosen everyone up. I don't even know how I'd begin to figure it out, Brian said. Or spend another year pining from behind your spreadsheets. Throughout the day, the office buzzed with costume ideas and playful threats of blackmail photos. Jerry remained quiet, mentally calculating ways to develop a sudden flu on October 31st. At 5 o'clock, he packed his briefcase with the day's unfinished work. As he headed toward the elevator, a voice stopped him. Running away already? Jerry turned to find Melissa standing there, her leather portfolio tucked under one arm. Up close, the flecks of gold in her brown eyes were even more apparent. Just, taking some work home. He patted his briefcase like it might verify his claim. Melissa smiled. I heard you groaning during Deborah's announcement. Heat crawled up Jerry's neck. Was I that obvious? Only to those of us who know what to listen for. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Not a fan of dressing up? Not especially skilled at it, he admitted. I wouldn't even know where to start with the whole gender swap thing. Something sparkled in Melissa's eyes. I could help you if you want. Jerry blinked. You'd do that? Sure, it could be fun. She adjusted her portfolio. I have a sister who's an esthetician. I've picked up a few tricks. I don't know. Jerry hesitated, though his heart hammered with possibilities. Think about it, Melissa said. The party's still 2 weeks away. My offer stands. That night, Jerry lay awake in his apartment, staring at the ceiling. His phone sat on the nightstand, Melissa's contact information glowing from the screen. They had exchanged numbers months ago for a project, but he'd never used it for anything personal. The next morning, after approximately 4 hours of sleep and 6 cups of coffee, Jerry sent the text before he could change his mind. About your offer to help with the costume party, I'd appreciate it if you're still willing. Her reply came during his commute. Absolutely. Come to my place Saturday at 2 p.m. We'll figure out what works for you. Here's my address. The rest of the week passed in a blur of anticipation and terror. By Saturday, Jerry had nearly talked himself out of it a dozen times. Yet at 1:58 p.m., he found himself standing outside Melissa's door in a modest brick apartment building, wearing his most casual button-down shirt and khakis. She answered his knock wearing paint-splattered jeans and a green t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "You came!" Her smile was genuine enough to settle some of his nerves.
"I considered faking my own death instead, but the paperwork seemed excessive,"
he joked weakly. Melissa's apartment was cozy and colorful, with bookshelves lining one wall and framed concert posters on another. A tabby cat regarded Jerry suspiciously from its perch on the sofa. "That's Professor Whiskers," Melissa explained. "He's skeptical of all new people."
"Smart cat,"
Jerry replied. Melissa gestured toward the dining area, where several shopping bags sat on the table.
"I may have gotten a little carried away."
Jerry swallowed.
"How carried away are we talking?"
"Let's find out." She reached into one bag and pulled out a long blonde wig.
"I thought this would work well with your skin tone."
As Melissa emptied the bags, Jerry's eyes widened. Makeup, jewelry, a padded bra, and finally, with a dramatic flourish, she revealed a red cocktail dress that seemed impossibly small. "There is no way that would fit me," he protested. "Trust me," Melissa laughed. "I know what I'm doing. I checked your measurements." "You what?" "I asked Brian," she admitted. "He stole a look at your jacket size when you left it on your chair Thursday." Jerry wasn't sure whether to be horrified or impressed by this level of preparation. "We don't have to do all of it," Melissa assured him, seeing his expression. "We can start small and see what you're comfortable with."
"I'm already way outside my comfort zone,"
Jerry admitted. "But I'm here, so might as well go all in." Melissa's face lit up. "That's the spirit! Let's start with makeup. Have a seat." For the next hour, Jerry sat still as Melissa worked her magic. Her touch was gentle as she applied foundation, concealer, and powder. She explained each step with patient enthusiasm. "Close your eyes," she instructed. "Brush poised with eyeshadow. I'm going for a subtle smoky eye that will really make your blue eyes pop." The sensation of the soft brush sweeping across his eyelids was strangely soothing. Jerry found himself relaxing into the experience, Melissa's proximity no longer making him nervous, but rather creating a bubble of intimacy. "Have you done this before?" he asked as she lined his eyes with a pencil. "Transformed a coworker? No, you're my first victim." Her laugh tickled his cheek. "But I used to help friends get ready for nights out. I considered going to beauty school before accounting stole my heart." "Accounting stole your heart?" That might be the first time anyone's put it that way. She dabbed something glossy onto his lips. "Numbers tell stories if you know how to read them. I find that fascinating." After the makeup came the wig, carefully pinned into place. The long blonde hair felt foreign against his neck and shoulders. "Stand up," Melissa directed. "Time for the dress." Jerry hesitated. "Maybe we can save that for the actual party?" "We need to make sure it fits," she insisted. "You can change in the bathroom. I put some other things in there you might need." In the bathroom, Jerry found not only the red dress, but also the padded bra, a pair of pantyhose, and some modest heels. He stared at his reflection, barely recognizing himself with the makeup and blonde hair framing his face. Already, his features looked softer, more feminine. With a deep breath, he began to change. The pantyhose were a struggle, but he managed not to tear them. The padded bra felt awkward until he adjusted the straps. And then, the dress, a stretchy material that hugged the artificial curves. When he finally emerged from the bathroom, walking carefully in the low heels, Melissa's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered.
"Jerry, you look ridiculous," he offered, fighting the urge to cross his arms over his chest.
"Beautiful," she corrected. "Truly, come look." She led him to a full-length mirror in her bedroom. The person staring back at Jerry was unrecognizable. A blonde woman in a red dress that accentuated curves he didn't actually possess, with makeup that transformed his face into something delicate and striking. "I need to make a few adjustments," Melissa murmured, tugging at the dress here and there.
"But overall, this works even better than I imagined."
Jerry couldn't stop staring at his reflection. "I look like a completely different person." "You need a name," Melissa decided. "For the party. Who is she?" Jerry considered this, tilting his head and watching the blonde hair cascade over one shoulder.
"Cynthia,"
he said, surprising himself with how quickly the name came to him. "Cynthia," Melissa repeated, smiling at him, at Cynthia in the mirror.
"Perfect. She looks like she could command a boardroom or a runway." "She looks more confident than I feel,"
Jerry admitted. Melissa placed her hands on his shoulders, meeting his eyes in the reflection.
"Maybe you could borrow some of that confidence, even just for one night."
The warmth of her touch through the thin material of the dress sent a pleasant shiver down Jerry's spine. For the first time, he didn't look away from her gaze.
"Maybe I could,"
he agreed softly. Over the next 2 weeks, Jerry returned to Melissa's apartment 3 more times to perfect his transformation into Cynthia. Each session built upon the last, with Melissa teaching him how to walk in heels, how to sit gracefully in a dress, even how to modulate his voice to sound more feminine. What began as preparation for a silly office party evolved into something more meaningful. In Melissa's apartment, amid the makeup brushes and fashion advice, they really talked about their lives, dreams, and disappointments. Jerry learned that Melissa had moved from Chicago 3 years ago after a broken engagement. She spoke 4 languages and volunteered teaching financial literacy at the community college. Melissa discovered Jerry's passion for classic films, his collection of first-edition mystery novels, and the screenplay he'd been secretly working on for years. By the night of the Halloween party, Jerry felt like he knew Melissa better than anyone else at Winston & Hayes, and she him. What he didn't know was how she felt about him beyond friendship. The evening of October 31st arrived with a flutter of anticipation. They had agreed to meet at Melissa's apartment and travel to the party together. Jerry arrived carrying a garment bag containing Cynthia's outfit, which had expanded to include appropriate jewelry and even a small purse. Melissa opened the door wearing a tailored men's suit, her hair slicked back, and subtle contouring on her face to create more angular features.
"Well, hello, handsome,"
Jerry said, surprised by his own boldness. Melissa grinned, executing a perfect gentleman's bow.
"Why, thank you. Mark at your service."
"Mark suits you," Jerry replied, stepping inside. "Your turn now," Melissa said, gesturing toward the bathroom. "Cynthia has an entrance to make." The transformation came easier now, after several practice sessions. As Jerry applied the makeup following Melissa's careful instructions, he felt the familiar shift in his demeanor. Something about becoming Cynthia allowed a different side of himself to emerge. More expressive, less inhibited. He slipped into the red cocktail dress, now perfectly fitted thanks to Melissa's adjustments. The blonde wig, secure and natural-looking, completed the physical transformation. Jerry, now Cynthia, regarded herself in the mirror and smiled. When she emerged, Melissa, or rather Mark, whistled appreciatively. "Stunning as always, Cynthia." "We make quite the pair," Cynthia replied, accepting Mark's offered arm. The office party was being held at a rented event space downtown. As they entered together, Cynthia felt a momentary panic. Despite all their preparation, these were still her coworkers, people she had to face every day.
"Relax," Mark whispered. "No one will recognize you unless you want them to."
Mark was right. The first person they encountered was Deborah from HR, dressed in an ill-fitting suit with a drawn-on mustache, who merely complimented Cynthia on her dress before moving on. Brian spotted them next, his 6-foot frame squeezed into a pink prom dress, stubble incongruous against heavy blush. He did a double-take at Cynthia before his eyes widened in recognition.
"Holy shit, Jerry," he stage whispered. "You look... wow. It's Cynthia tonight," Mark corrected smoothly. "And yes, she does look wow."
Brian glanced between them, a slow smile spreading across his face.
"I see how it is. About damn time."
Before Cynthia could question what he meant, Brian had disappeared into the crowd, his pink dress swishing dramatically. The evening progressed in a surreal blur. Cynthia received countless compliments, many from people who had no idea they were speaking to Jerry from accounting. She found herself laughing more freely, standing taller, making eye contact instead of staring at the floor. Mark stayed close, occasionally placing a protective hand at the small of her back when navigating the crowded room. Each touch sent sparks across Cynthia's skin. During a lull in the music, Mark leaned close to her ear. "Want to get some air? There's a terrace upstairs." The terrace overlooked the city skyline, lights twinkling against the dark October sky. They were alone, the sounds of the party muffled through the glass doors. "Having fun, Cynthia?" Mark asked, leaning against the railing. "More than I expected," she admitted. "It's strange. I feel like I can be more myself when I'm being someone else. Does that make any sense?" Mark nodded. "Perfect sense. Sometimes we need permission to express parts of ourselves we usually keep hidden." "Is that why you did this?" Cynthia gestured to Mark's masculine attire. "To express something hidden?" "Partly," Mark admitted. "But mostly I wanted to support you. I knew this was far outside your comfort zone." Cynthia moved closer, the night air cool against her bare arms. "Why did you offer to help me in the first place?" Mark was quiet for a moment, looking out at the city. "Because I've always seen something in you, Jerry. Something special that you keep tucked away behind your desk and your spreadsheets." "And what about Cynthia?" she asked, heart pounding. "What do you see in her?" Mark turned to face her fully. The same person, just letting herself shine. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then Mark reached out, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind Cynthia's ear. "I've wanted to get to know you better for a long time," Mark confessed. "The real you, whoever that is, Jerry, Cynthia, or someone in between." Cynthia's breath caught. "I thought I was the one with the secret crush." Mark laughed softly. "Not so secret. At least not to me." "Why didn't you say something?" "I was waiting for you to feel comfortable enough to talk to me as more than just a coworker. When you accepted my help with the costume, I thought maybe that was your way of opening the door." Cynthia nodded slowly.
It was. I just didn't know if you'd want to walk through it. I'm here, aren't I? Mark's hand found hers on the railing, fingers intertwining. Inside, the music changed to something slower, the bass line throbbing gently through the glass. Would Cynthia like to dance? Mark asked. She would, Cynthia answered. But I think Jerry would like that too. They swayed together on the terrace, the city their witness. As midnight approached, Mark's hand cupped Cynthia's cheek.
May I kiss you?
Instead of answering, Cynthia leaned forward, pressing her lips to Mark's. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper, more certain. When they pulled apart, both were smiling.
I've been wanting to do that for months,
Mark admitted. Better late than never, Cynthia replied. They rejoined the party hand in hand. Deborah cornered them near the dessert table to announce that Cynthia had won Most Convincing in the costume contest. The prize was a gift card and a small trophy shaped like a pumpkin. As the party wound down, Brian approached again, his makeup smudged, but his grin intact.
So, you two finally figured it out, huh?
Figured what out? Cynthia asked innocently. Brian rolled his eyes.
That you've been perfect for each other since Melissa transferred to our department. The whole office has been waiting for one of you to make a move.
Mark laughed.
Was it that obvious? Only to everyone with eyes,
Brian replied.
Anyway, congrats. And Jerry, or Cynthia, or whoever you are tonight, you look genuinely happy, man. It's a good look on you.
Later, as they walked to Melissa's car under a canopy of stars, Cynthia felt a strange reluctance. I don't want the night to end, she admitted. It doesn't have to, Melissa replied, her voice back to its normal register now that they were alone. The night, maybe, but whatever's starting between us, that's just beginning. At Melissa's apartment, Jerry changed back into his regular clothes, carefully removing the makeup with the cleansing products she'd provided. When he emerged from the bathroom, it was as himself again. Or almost. Melissa had changed too, back into comfortable clothes, her hair loose around her shoulders. She smiled when she saw him, patting the spot beside her on the sofa. So, she said as he sat down, how does it feel to be Jerry again? He considered this, running a hand through his short hair. Different, but not entirely. I think maybe Cynthia was always part of me, just waiting for permission to exist. Melissa's hand found his. And will she be making future appearances? Would you want her to? I want all of you, Melissa said simply. Whatever form that takes. Jerry leaned in to kiss her, no longer hesitant. When they separated, he said, I think Cynthia might enjoy dinner and dancing sometime, if you're interested. I'm very interested, Melissa assured him. In fact, I already have a few ideas for her next outfit. 3 months later, Jerry stood in front of Melissa's mirror, their mirror now, since he had moved in just after New Year's. The blonde wig was carefully styled, the makeup subtle but effective. Instead of the red cocktail dress, tonight Cynthia wore an elegant black evening gown. Almost ready? Melissa called from the bedroom. Just finishing up, Cynthia replied, applying a final touch of lipstick. Their relationship had blossomed since Halloween, built on the foundation of mutual respect and understanding that had developed during those transformation sessions. Jerry had been surprised by how supportive Melissa was of Cynthia's occasional appearances, how she treated both aspects of him as equally valid and worthy of love. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, though their relationship wasn't a secret. To everyone's credit at Winston and Hayes, The office gossip had been minimal and largely supportive. Tonight was special, their first formal date with Cynthia. They had tickets to the symphony, followed by dinner at an upscale restaurant. Melissa had helped plan every detail, from the reservations to which jewelry would complement the gown. Cynthia emerged from the bathroom to find Melissa waiting in a midnight blue dress that hugged her curves, her chestnut hair swept up elegantly. "You look incredible," Cynthia breathed. "So do you," Melissa replied, helping fasten a borrowed necklace around Cynthia's neck. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Cynthia admitted. "This is the first time we've gone somewhere so public." Melissa's hands rested on her shoulders. "We don't have to go if you're not ready." "No, I want to," Cynthia assured her. "It's just new territory." "Life is all about new territory," Melissa said, kissing her cheek carefully to avoid smudging her lipstick. "And I can't think of anyone I'd rather explore it with." Professor Whiskers watched from the sofa as they gathered their things to leave. The cat had long since accepted Jerry as part of the household, though he showed particular affection for Cynthia, often curling in her lap when she appeared. As they stepped out into the winter evening, hands clasped together, Cynthia felt a surge of gratitude. One costume party, one leap of faith, had opened the door to a relationship and a self-understanding she never could have imagined. "What are you thinking about?" Melissa asked as they walked to the car. Cynthia smiled, the blonde hair catching the streetlight. "Just that sometimes the best parts of ourselves are the ones we keep hidden until someone helps us find the courage to reveal them." Melissa squeezed her hand. "Here's to courage, then, and to whatever comes next." "To whatever comes next," Cynthia agreed, stepping confidently forward in her heels, no longer afraid of being seen. All of her, exactly as she was.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!